Everybody, welcome back for Proverbs 26. I am glad that you are here. If you've got any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below. Like, shares, and subscriptions are all appreciated, so if you could do that, I would appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get started. Proverbs 26, verse 1. Again, we're back into these kind of couplet-style statements, and some of them today are actually, I think, repeated from before. So some stuff we've covered before, but it's always worth hearing again. So, verse 1 of 26, like snow in the summer or rain in the harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. So obviously, in summer it's not typically supposed to rain, or it's not typically supposed to snow. And then during harvest time, you're trying to get everything in. Rain is not helpful to you at that point either. So in both of these cases, and what we're going to talk a lot about today is giving honor, or how to treat, not necessarily how to treat a fool, but giving them honor and giving them employment and stuff like that. So, but anyway, so as beneficial as snow is in the summer, and rain and harvest is the value of giving honor to a fool. So, verse 2, like a sparrow in its flitting, excuse me, like a swallow in its flying, a curse that is causeless and does not alight. So this is like a bird that's cleaning itself, or it says a swallow and it's flying, but it's I'm assuming that a swallow had more of a not necessarily a purposeful flight, but kind of wandering and going back and forth and not necessarily getting anywhere. Because some of the other versions that I looked at real quick were kind of in that vein. But basically, it's saying like a bird that doesn't fly is compared to a curse that is causeless, that doesn't have a purpose. It's not going to take off or take root. It's not going to land on the person that it was sent towards. I don't think this gives us permission to speak curses, whether they're causeless or not. But this does give us some kind of protection that if someone curses us, that if it's without cause, then we don't have to worry about it. But I think ultimately, God protects us in the spiritual realm, so curses only have what effect that He will allow. Verse 3, a whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the back of fools. So obviously a whip is used for correction in a horse and direction. A bridle is used for direction of a donkey. And this is saying a rod for the back of fools. Basically, physical punishment, or so kind of a physical reprimand may be necessary. I think the goal here is to keep ourselves from being foolish, so that we don't have to deal with it or encounter it. Verse 4, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. So don't stoop to a fool's level. If a fool is approaching you or speaking to you foolishly, if you return their foolishness, you are essentially putting yourself in that category. And then verse 5 kind of gives us another reason. It says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. So if we stoop to a fool's level, we are making him look better in his own eyes. He's going to look at that and go, oh, well, someone else agrees with me, even if they, even if we're kidding, or if we think we're being sarcastic. It may be that he or she, the fool, takes it as a compliment, or encourages them to remain in their foolishness. Verse 6, whoever sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. So we've talked about the importance of messengers in this day and time. And so by sending a message through someone that wasn't trustworthy, by someone that was foolish, by someone that was not able to deliver a message, or you know that you can't consistently count on them, it's like cutting off your own feet, putting yourself at a disadvantage, and drinking violence and bringing violence on yourself. Just be careful who you trust, and vet those people before you tell people things. Verse 7, like a lame man's legs which hang useless is a proverb in the mouth of fools. So anyone can memorize words. Someone may pick up the book of Proverbs and just kind of grab bits and pieces out of it and memorize it. And so this is saying, there's no benefit in that if your life doesn't align with what you're saying. There's no benefit there. It's useless. It hangs useless. And then verse 8 continues that, like the one who binds the stone in the sling is one who gives honor to a fool. So obviously a sling was made to throw stones. So by sewing it into place or binding it into place, it defeats the purpose of having the stone and the sling in the first place. And so it compares this with one who gives honor to a fool. So we talked about earlier how honor was like snow in the summer or rain at harvest. This is comparing it to a sling with the stone, basically permanently attached. That's the benefit of giving honor to a fool. Verse 9, like a thorn that goes up into the hand of a drunkard is a proverb in the mouth of fools. So if you think a drunkard is not necessarily going to feel the thorn when it goes in, but at some point it's going to get festered and it's going to be painful. And it's comparing that to, again, that proverb that a fool can memorize but not actually apply. A fool can repeat but not actually use. Verse 10, like an archer who wounds everyone is one who hires a passing fool or drunkard. So like an archer who's dangerous to be around, whose aim is that bad, or they're just that careless, that people are getting injured. And it compares that to one who hires a passing fool or drunkard. So one who's not judicious about hiring and firing, that's not, not running the proper checks, but if you are, once you hire someone, it is your responsibility what they do. So be careful in that process, because then you become the one doing the damage. It's not just the fool and his foolishness. If you're paying the fool to do his foolishness, then you are at least partially responsible. Verse 11, like a fool that returns to his vomit is let me back that up. Verse 11, like a dog that returns to his vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. Excuse me. So, and I think we've all had, these times in our lives where there was some foolishness that we kept going back to. This compares that to a dog that returns to its vomit. It's, there was something wrong, the dog didn't feel well, that's why they vomited in the first place. And so to go back and ingest that again, it's not only gross, it's also, just unwise. Whatever needed to come out for that to happen, it's just going to, kind of start this process all over again. And so, I think that's true in all of our lives, whether we are fools or not. I think we all have some foolishness within us that we're trying to work out. And so the foolishness that we have may look like returning to our vomit if we're continuing to struggle with the same things. If we keep putting ourselves in the same situation. Verse 12, do you see a man who's wise in his own eyes? There's more hope for for a fool than for him. So it doesn't tell us that the man in the first part of this verse is exceptionally wise or exceptionally foolish, but if he's gotten to the point where he sees himself as wise in his own eyes, there's no more hope. Like there's at least less hope for him than there is for a fool, because once you've gotten to a point where you think you arrived and you think you've achieved, you stop growing, you stop learning, and you immediately start going backwards. And you can't be, once you get to a point where you quit receiving instruction, you can't be corrected. Verse 13, the sluggard says, there's a lion in the road, there's a lion in the streets. We talked about this before. I don't know if it's a direct quote, but anyway, from chapter 22, verse 13. Anyway, when we talked about it before, and I looked it up and searched it out. It's basically, making an excuse not to do work, making an excuse not to do what you were planning to do or what you needed to do, and by probably blowing something out of proportion, and that this could possibly happen, so that I need to avoid that altogether, and using that as an excuse not to move forward in a business idea or in whatever your work task is or whatever the case may be, and that just getting focused on some possibility that's not probable. And then verse 14, as a door turns on its hinges, so does a sluggard in his bed. So I've never seen a door pick up and take off to do anything productive other than be a door. So this is comparing the mobility of a door to a sluggard in the bed. They just keep rolling over. They don't get up and make any progress. They don't do anything productive. And so from today's chapter, we kind of have a little bit better picture of a fool, and hopefully we can use that to try to avoid being associated, and to put ourselves in situations where we can gain more knowledge and more wisdom, and try to avoid the foolishness within us. But anyway, thank you for being here, and we will pick up with the second part of chapter 26 tomorrow. Have a great day.